All right, we are live. Hey, Dr. Ross.
Hey, Dr. Casey Bragg.
So, I guess for those of you who are tuning in, I'm really excited to interview my very good friend, Dr. Kevin Ross. I've been wanting to sort of reboot these interviews and start having these conversations again. One, to help doctors and chiropractors like us to start getting amazing results with patients and achieving the highest level of care possible for them, and also for patients and people who are listening who just want to take their health into their own hands and achieve longer, healthier, happier lives. So I'm really excited to bring you on, Dr. Ross, and have some conversation with you. I'll give you a quick intro, and then I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit about your journey in KST. But Dr. Ross, 1991 Palmer graduates where my parents went. He's been in private practice since 1992, so he's crazy old. His love and passion have always been pediatric and family care, and he has a thriving practice in Tempe, Arizona, with up to 50% kids. He took his first KST seminar in 2010 and fell in love with it. In 2011, Dr. Ted Koren, who created this technique, reached out to Kevin and asked him to help mentor at a seminar. And following year, Ted invited him to teach a few segments at the seminar as well. And now Dr. Ross is actually the lead instructor for KST for all the seminars that are taking place. So I'm thrilled to chat with you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Oh man, thank you for having me. This has been an amazing journey, and the opportunity to meet you and have you along in this ride has been just a great joy in my life too. So like I said, man, I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of fun that we're literally across the sidewalk from each other as far as our practice locations. Like if we didn't have walls, I could throw a rock and hit you while you're adjusting and I'm adjusting. We're that close. So getting to know each other well. But, I talk a lot about KST in my practice, and patients always have a lot of questions about it and how it works. And so you're the perfect guy to talk to about that. But I would love to just know how you found chiropractic, how you found KST, or how they found you, and really what drew you into KST and to achieve this level of mastery where you're now teaching it.
I tell you, it originally didn't want to be a chiropractor at all. I did not get my first chiropractic adjustment until about 2 weeks before I left to go to chiropractic college. My original thing that I wanted to be was the masseuse on the Love Boat. I was going to travel the world, massage beautiful people, and life was going to be fantastic. And my dad got a hold of me and had this, father-son talk when I was young, and said, it may not be the best thing, but my dad had actually had really good success with a chiropractor. He got rear-ended. It snapped off the seat where my dad was in, just a really horrific accident. And really the chiropractor got him back functional. And so he said, Kevin, you like working with your hands, you like working with people, why don't you try chiropractic? I'm like, okay. And so I literally applied to chiropractic college. I read my application to it. I'm like, I have no idea how these guys accepted me. But fell in love with chiropractic when I was there, the philosophy of chiropractic. I ended up being a campus guide for them, and just love the history and the details of what chiropractic is. And so anyways, I've been in practice for 18 years, doing great stuff, high volume practice, not uncommon to be 80, 90, 100, 120 people in a day. But I kept seeing these brochures that started coming around about the Koren Specific Technique. And I'm like, man, that's cool. That's like chiropractic, but I don't do that. And I throw it away. And did that for several rounds that I got these mailers from Dr. Ted. And one of the ones, I was sitting at my desk in my office and was reading the brochure. And Dr. Casey, I'm telling you, I've said this story to other folks, as clear of the audible voice of God in my head as there could be, take the work. And I sat there and went, all right, that was kind of weird. Maybe not. And it was a second I was take the work. And so I got a hold of my wife and said, Gina, I think I need to take this KST stuff. And I'm pretty sure God told me to do it. And so anyways, invested in the seminar, went to it, and really have never looked back. Absolutely radically life-changing. I tell folks, man, there is a lot of great chiropractors out there. I was not a bad chiropractor doing non-KST stuff. But man, when I started doing KST, my life and my office radically changed. And so it has been an exciting ride to get here. And I am kind of a persistent turd in life in general. That's kind of how so I would start showing up to seminars early and, hey, do you guys need any help? Need help setting up, any of that kind of stuff, lending my body. And one of the seminars very shortly after, they needed some help with, and they did an introduction that they needed help with an extra mentor. And I said, I love this. Just kind of went from there.
That's awesome. And you got a little bit garbled toward the end of there. I think we caught just about everything, but you may just want to quick check your mic. Yeah, now that's better. Cool. Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience where I was going a completely different route with practice as a student. And once I encountered Dr. Ted Koren and KST, I walked out of that first talk where I heard him speak, and I turned to the guy who invited me, my brother-in-law, and just said, I think that might have just changed everything for me. And I just had to take the seminar. I was in the seminar room within a couple of months, and I used it all through school and have used it ever since. But it's a different technique. And what I would love is, what is KST? What makes it different from the other techniques out there?
KST is, and even Dr. Ted has kind of said it, that it's almost really not a specific chiropractic technique, but an information gathering technique that chiropractic use incredibly well because of our scope of practice. But in KST, we utilize one of the binary checks of the body. There's a lot of these. There's muscle strength testing. There's activator leg length checks. There's the double O-ring. There's a bunch of different these binary checks, and KST uses what's called the occipital drop check. It's a simple no/yes response from the body that we utilize to gather information. But Dr. Ted put together this really a flow chart of what's called priorities. And what KST allows us to do then is really tap into the physical, the chemical, the emotional processes of the body through above the waist, below the waist, anterior, posterior extremity, and then what's called SEDVED, which is scars, emotions, dental, dehydration, valve, organ, endocrine. All these different health concerns that people have can really be found fairly quickly using this occipital drop and this process that Dr. Ted put together that really is what KST is as a process or a technique for the chiropractor.
So you're kind of tapping into the wisdom of the body, essentially. I mean, we always approach these cases with this understanding that the body's brilliant, it's incredibly intelligent. And what I love about KST is it's really leading the dance. I mean, we're getting that yes/no response from the most intelligently designed, brilliant system in the body that's sort of directing us and leading us as far as what we go and what its priorities are, what's important for it to rebalance and heal. One thing that's really unique about KST that I've found fascinating and it's helped me get results with patients that people don't seem to get elsewhere is the idea of posture of subluxation.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about that. Just have you explain that in your the way that you tend to explain it in the room. But what is that, and why is it so important to find that when you're correcting something in somebody?
Well, and you're right. The process that we as chiropractors talk about, right? The innate intelligence of the human body, right? We learn it. We kind of pay a time lip service to it. We talk about what it is, but we really don't trust that, right? And so that innate intelligence is driving the capacity for this body to heal. But what's cool is with the occipital drop check that we do in KST and putting people into what we refer to as posture of subluxation, there's also a kind of a variation of what's called position of pain. But when you put a person into the posture that potentially created the issue, different physiological things register. So people will say, yeah, I'm fine if I'm sitting, but if I fill in the blank, sit, stand, lay, move, I'm fine. But if I'm behind the wheel of the car, then I freak out, I get tense. So within the KST process, what we love is the position of subluxations. We put people into really specific postures to try to fire that innate intelligence in a different way than it is in just a neutral posture. You lay someone face down and you're palpating along the spine, the body's like, I'm good with that. But if you bend them over and have them lift something a little bit, completely different physiological response. That's kind of the magic that happens with KST is these postures of subluxation or positions of pain even. We can really fine tune the details of what the body's looking for and get a lot more specific answers. And I would say better, faster results because the body responds to those things in a different way. So yeah, it's a game changer. When you start putting people into those postures, they're amazed at how fast their bodies will change when you do that. And most techniques don't do that. We put them in a position that's comfortable for us, not necessarily what that body needs. And that's what one of the reasons I love KST is that it does allow us to utilize that idea of position of subluxation or position of pain.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know of other techniques that do that, where it can be a position, it can be a movement. If I have a patient who tells me, it hurts when, I had a patient the other day who injured himself deadlifting.
Yeah.
And so he was, so we had him basically go into the position of deadlifting. We found there were priorities throughout his body, and we were adjusting him not just in the position he was standing, but through the entire range of motion of the deadlift.
Yeah.
And so I don't know other techniques that do that besides KST, and do other techniques help people get out of pain and heal and things. Of course they do,
absolutely, for sure.
But that laser specificity just seems to be the missing piece, where people just seems to get well extremely quickly.
No.
I wanted to ask you also about emotional work, because
can I touch on something? Yeah, I wanted, if I can touch on that, because one of the things that freaks people out is you start talking about KST and people get better faster. People freak out. They're like, but they need to come back to the office. They do, but guys, our job isn't to see patients for 20 visits. Our job is to help their bodies get better. And when you do that well, people refer, they come back. They don't just like see you for a couple of visits and they're gone. They value that. And so I know you've said it a couple of times, and I agree. We see people get better faster, but that's not something to be afraid of. That's something to be excited about, that people actually respond in a faster way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you touched on something about emotion, and a lot of people don't really include chiropractic in the conversation around emotional healing, and it's a huge part of our practices in KST. Yeah. And I would love for you to just kind of touch on how do we work in the emotional realm with chiropractic and KST.
It is, in my opinion, and we actually just did a 3-part webinar just on emotions, because this is such a big subject. And again, in the chiropractic philosophy, we learn about what creates subluxations, right? The thoughts, the traumas, and the toxins. Well, we don't, as practitioners, regularly address those 3 sources of subluxation on any consistent basis. And so in the KST priorities chart that we talked about, built into this flow chart that we go through with SEDVED is scars and emotions. And so if we're going through this checklist that we do with all of the patients to see what their body's looking for, we can get this registration of emotions that's this yes response. It's a positive affirmative. That's the issue. And then we have the ability to figure out what those emotions are. Is it anger, frustration? We have a couple different emotions charts that allows us to fine tune what that emotion is. And then we can figure out age. If something happened, it's anger at 10, we can get that specific and say, hey, Mrs. Smith, is there something that you're aware of that caused an anger response at 10 years old? Parents got divorced, you had to move, from houses or something like that. And almost invariably they'll go, how did you know that? My parents got divorced at 10 years old and I've been angry with them ever since. And knowing that emotions working in the background against them of that anger, we can then help adjust. And we're not, and I'm always cautious on this, we're not being psychologists when we do this work, when we're talking about adjusting for emotions. We're just trying to free up a physiological response to an underlying emotion that can perpetuate an ill health in that person. And when you free them up from that thing that's connected to whatever that emotion is, well, first of all, people cry. They heal faster. They feel a relief that's up underneath that. And what we kind of indicated earlier, people get better faster. They actually respond and feel better. But it's a simple process within KST that consistently allows us to know that we're getting at that emotional component and addressing what's underneath it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the work
Yeah.
because with I think it's also emotion is kind of the most overlooked, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked pieces of overall health, and it's kind of looked at this as like this separate thing, like we think our emotions and they stay up here and don't go any lower than this,
Yeah.
but but they affect our full physiology. If you ask anybody where in your body do you hold or carry your stress, you might not have the same answer as me, but everybody has an answer,
Yeah.
and it's amazing how posture will change with emotional stress, with emotional trauma. Collarbones will come up to protect the throat, sternum will rotate to protect the heart, tailbone will tuck in between the legs to tighten the meninges. All these things that structurally happen with emotional stress, and when you correct and release that, it's amazing the emotional release and the healing that comes with it.
Yeah. There's
I can nerd out on that stuff. I love it so
oh,
much.
well, even in the KST process, one of the things we talk about is we'll talk about patterns. There's certain patterns, and there's within KST we talk about this thing called a panic pattern. That's a very common group of things that go together when someone experiences stress, and I tell folks it's sort of like when you scare a dog, it goes. "Arr!" Tail goes under, sternum goes up, little voice, and there's the voice box that's involved, the sternum involved, the coccyx involved, and there's these combinations of things that will go together with certain stress patterns as well. And again, with this really simple process that we teach at the seminars, is just figuring out exactly what that is, addressing it, and freeing people up to live life better.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the seminar, and we've got the little ticker going across the screen here, but you and I are actually both going to be in Philadelphia October 14th and 15th. I'm really excited about it. But what are people going to learn when they come learn KST on October 14th and 15th in Philadelphia? What's going to be rolled out for them?
So one of the exciting parts is having the privilege that Dr. Ted has given me to be able to really take over being the primary teacher with KST. We've made some changes within the teaching process of KST that really has, I think, made it a more congruent way for people to learn KST. What they're going to learn is how to feel this occipital drop check that we're talking about. If they're not familiar with any sort of binary check at all, which I wasn't going into my first seminar. I mean, I was clueless for any of this stuff. But we will teach you, and you will be able to feel very, very clearly what that occipital drop check is, how to feel it on patients. It's a very interactive seminar. It's very hands-on. You're feeling that. And then we really go through the rest of the weekend is teaching them through this idea of what I mentioned earlier of priorities. How do you access that information from the body very clearly? The things that are above the waist, below the waist, the things that are anterior, posterior. How do you address extremities? One of my favorite things is in the above the waist is the cranial components. A lot of folks miss the whole cranial component that is so vital for people's healing as well. And it's an integral part of the KST learning process during that beginner seminar. So what they're going to get is overwhelmed. There is a lot of information that comes at you that first seminar. We really encourage you guys though to get plugged in if you're open to the idea of learning something new, to learn something that's going to be an effective and I say more effective than what you're currently doing way to help people get healthy and get better faster. That's really what they are going to be learning. What I love, and thank you very much for being willing to come to this seminar, Dr. Casey, to have you in the advanced class as well. Folks that'll be in there. We have a brand new 70-page advanced manual that we created just for those folks to make sure that we're covering all the details that we need to. You get fed pretty well. There's some pretty good food at lunchtime as well. And you'll also, what they're going to get is family. When you join with KST and you're doing KST as a technique, you really join our family. I treat it very much that way. I want to love on you guys. I want the people that come in to be way more successful than I've ever been. If I can teach you to be better than what I am, and you can get better results faster and see more patients, that's going to be success. And I will love on my family any way I can to help you guys do that as well. So that's kind of the small package of what happens at a seminar.
Yeah. Plus, you're going to get some pretty amazing care while you're there. You're going to be around some amazing doctors, and one thing we love to do is take care of the people who are in the room. So you'll get adjusted. You'll get to experience the effects of KST and just what that healing feels like, because it's important that you know. So I'm pretty excited about that myself.
For having people come home from a KST seminar healthier and feeling better than they ever have at any other seminar is such a common experience. And we get to work on some of the people in the front of the room, and watching people get adjusted live in front of a group and seeing the changes, it's powerful. I mean, it's incredibly powerful to see that. And we tried to do as many demonstrations during that time as well, so you see that hands-on. Anyways, yeah, it is truly it's a gift to be able to be there. And I hope we can have just a whole bunch of people joining us in Philadelphia. We do have one other seminar towards the end of the year. We don't have anything set up for the next year. We have no dates. We don't have locations yet, Dr. Casey. So I would tell folks, if this at all sounds interested, please, guys, it's 2 weeks out. It's not that far. Please register with Rob at the home office, get an airline ticket, drive, whatever you got to do. But I'd love to have you come and join me and Dr. Casey in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And CEUs as well available for it, correct?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I believe all 50 states, but you can check with Rob on that as well. Hey, Dr. Casey, can I touch on one other thing too about the seminars? Yeah. That the other thing that you guys learn, and is I think one of the best gifts about KST, is you can also check and adjust yourself. I had a standing appointment with another chiropractor once a week before I went to KST. I checked them, they checked me. I love having Dr. Casey across the sidewalk from me because we now can exchange care. But to be able to check yourself very specifically, and as long as you can reach the area that's involved, adjust yourself. It's another amazing part of the KST process, is checking and adjusting yourself.
Yeah, that's one thing that's great about it, is that you have the ability to check yourself and check your family members. And one thing that I remember Dr. Koren, who developed the technique, saying is he believed there should be a healer in every family. And so maybe that's you, whoever's listening. It's time to come learn it. Man, I'd love to close out with a miracle story, man. I know I didn't ask you to come up with one before you got on, but I was wondering if you had any KST miracle story, some crazy case that walked in and
yeah, I do actually. One that hits me a lot, and it's part of some emotional work that we're processing as well. But I had a kid that came in. He was probably at the time 10 years old. He was the problem child. He had been to 3 or 4 schools, kicked out of them. Failed everything, was horrible at home, was horrible with his teachers, just a miserable child, very honestly, to be around, because he just behaviors beyond belief. And we started working with him, and there was this, I think at some point it was kind of this inspired moment. Everything that he was doing is just like he didn't hear anything. And I said, do me a favor, say my brain hears what my ears hear. Just say that. And he said, what? I said, no, I need you to say my brain hears what my ears hear. And he said, what? I went literally word by word, say my brain. And I went through each one of these things, and I adjusted then the priorities that showed up above the waist, below the waist, what we do in KST, and had him say it again, tried to say it again. He said, what? Did the exact same process. And then, Dr. Casey, I'm telling you, I adjusted one more thing on this kid. And I said, say, my brain hears what my ears hear. And he said, my brain hears what my ears hear. It was this fluid, gorgeous thing. And his mom, sitting across from me, had these tears that, like crocodile tears, rolled down her face immediately. She said, he's never done that in his life. Wow. Working with this kid in 2 visits, Dr. Casey, 2 visits, his entire school changed. He became an A student. He was mentoring kids in his classroom.
Oh my gosh.
He literally had his life changed because there was a disconnect, a neurologic disconnect from anything that hit his ear. The brain didn't process it. And so literally he was floundering in life because nothing made sense. And through the KST process, radically changed this child's life forever.
That's so cool, man. I love stories like that. And I tell anyone who's asked me about KST, I tell them, man, miracles are the rule. They're not the exception.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Yeah, it's so powerful. And I invite anyone who, oh, go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say, I have said that I saw more chiropractic miracles in the first 6 months after my first KST seminar than I did the previous 10 years combined. And it blows me at this point. It's so commonplace. I expect it. It's like, if, you know, people go, oh, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's crazy to be so used to people having chiropractic miracles, to have their bodies radically change rapidly. Anyways, it's a gift that we have within this technique.
Yeah, and it's cool to be able to get used to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, miracles. It's just, you expect it. That's what happens when you come here.
Yeah.
So, well, Dr. Ross, I really appreciate you taking the time, sir. I hope anyone listening to this got some value out of it, either in help in finding a chiropractor that can help you probably solve a problem that maybe hasn't been helped yet. Find a KST doctor. You can find that at KorenSpecificTechnique.com. We've got it on the ticker below. Or if you're a chiropractor who just wants to level up the results you're getting, be able to find stressors that a lot of other people miss, this is an amazing seminar. So Dr. Ross and I are both going to be there October 14th and 15th in Philadelphia. He'll be in the main room. I'll be in the advanced room. And Dr. Ross, anytime I chat with people, I love to end with just giving you the last word, anything you like the world to hear from Dr. Kevin Ross.
Oh, man. You guys, I say this to my patients a lot in my office. More than anything else, I want you guys to know you're loved. The things that we have the opportunity to do as chiropractors, and especially with KST, for me to have God gift me with the skills and abilities that I have to be able to bless you guys, and then you in turn bless other people in your life, that to me is the gift. And anytime someone chooses to attend a KST seminar, getting trained to this amazing work, it becomes an extension of the gift that God put into my life and my heart through you to the world. And I pray every day that God brings to the door the people I can help, that you can help. And through this process of KST, we can do that better, faster, and really spread this word really throughout the nation and around the world. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate you listening, Dr. Casey. I appreciate the time with me as well on here, and your willingness to hang out with me.
Oh, always, man, always. So, Dr. Ross, thank you very much, man. Everybody, have a great day.